All right, so this is probably a mockernut hickory, and what's the story about that
Here's an older shortleaf pine. You notice how it's got smoother bark scales?
Yeah, and I definitely know it's a shortleaf.
At the base, there's this what you call a cat face, which is a fire scar. And what happens is leaf litter builds up along the side of the tree, and when a fire comes through, it burns and scars along the side where the leaf litter
creates a pit.
And if you were to say cut a wedge out of this tree and look at the growth rings along that scar, you could see how many different fire scars there were along that cat face, and oftentimes there'll be multiple along a single cat face.
Would you say this tree is maybe a century old?
I think this tree could easily be 150 to 200 years old. And some of the ones up the slope even more older.
And so we're possibly about maybe to get into that older stand.
I think so, yeah. This is lovely. You can see there's snag up the slope. The bark texture on the shortleaf pines, to me, indicates pretty good age. And they've also noticed they've pruned off their lower limbs, so they've been around for a while.
I see a scarlet oak and what's this tree here?
That's a mockernut hickory, or the younger tree.
Yeah, the younger
black gun.
Yeah, that's a gum. Yeah, that's what that was.
Nice.
And we're still facing. I guess we were south. Maybe we're getting a bit southwest, pretty much. Yeah. Interesting. And so this is a stand. They, officially say it's like 1901. But with some older trees thrown in the mix. And as we go up the elevation, we're supposed to get into something they date at 1868, I believe. So would you say that as the, definitely as the short leaves age, the bark continues to flatten even more?
Yeah,
a lot of the time?
Generally the bark polygons grow in size and get smoother.
Yeah.
Corresponds to a slowing growth rate or actually just a slowing increase in circumference.
If you had to take a shot in dark, how many fires he's probably seen?
I'd say that one's seen at least 4. But yeah, it's hard to say. It'd be really interesting to know. I can also see it's got pine beetles. So this guy's either had a pine beetle outbreak this year or survived a pine beetle outbreak in the past.
Where's the indicators?
You see these holes?
These bores?
Yeah, and there's one there. And there may be more. Yeah, there's more, and here's one. Tough tree. Now, one thing about southern pine beetle is it's most severe in drought years. And one thing about this forest, you notice the canopy is really closed. One of the thoughts on shortleaf pine and other dry site pines is that they're more resistant to pine beetle if there's a lower density of trees on the site, because there's less competition for the water in the drought years. Well, one of the sad facts about clear cuts is they actually increase the available groundwater moisture to trees, which oftentimes causes a site that might be really dry to regenerate in poplar, a pretty wet site species. And what happens then is the poplar will overcrowd the site and actually overshoot the potential of the site, which leads to oftentimes some worse disturbances in the future, and loss in biodiversity and all that stuff. And there's a paper I read about 2 consecutive clear cuts at Coweta where they converted, unintentionally with 2 consecutive clear cuts, a chestnut oak forest to a poplar-dominated forest.
The clear cut.
An increase in ground moisture, but the take-home message is in this particular site, if there was a lower density of trees, these pines would be more resistant to southern pine beetle. So again, this is still a site that I think is kind of appropriate for woodland conditions.
Well, how much lower tree density would you say, if any, would do you think that it would just simply start gapping out and just lower its density, over the next 20 years on its own,
I think it would require fire to lower the tree density. Or perhaps, southern pine beetle would do it also, but then you would lose one of the special components of the community if you lose all the shortleaf pine. And shortleaf pine wouldn't regenerate well on this site without some fire. But I would say if you imagine probably about 2/3 of the scarlet oaks you see around here, which is probably the dominant tree, going away, and most of the red maple, which is also pretty common in here, that would be an appropriate reduction in tree density.